Hi, I'm Jason. This is the 1928 Model A Ford. If you haven't watched the other video, watch the other video. I'll do the walk around tour in that video and show you everything about the car and any issues it has and the modifications and things I've done to it, and walk you through all the work that's been done. But this is going to be the driving video, and I want to show you the proper way to drive one of these and start it. There's a lot of misinformation on YouTube, and people don't seem to know how to operate the levers correctly and things. So let's go through this so you know the right way as the next owner. So on this one, this car hasn't been driven now in probably about 3 weeks or so, maybe 4 weeks. I pushed it out of the garage, so this is going to be a dead cold start. So let me walk you through what we need to do to start it. You can see it's completely cold and completely cold. So what we're going to do, I did add a fuse block to this one, so I always take the fuse out when it's still sitting. So we'll put the fuse in. I'll snap this in here. And then it also has a power cutoff switch, so we'll turn that on. And I added that power cutoff switch as well. I've already checked the oil and the water, and we're fine with that. So we're done under here. I would also check the transmission fluid and everything else, and the tires and all that, but we'll cover that in the other video. So let's go inside now, and I'll show you how to properly start it.
Should I stop it?
Come on. Okay. Regular ignition, like they'll have. There's nothing that's modified here. There's a fuel cutoff on the 28 and 29 underneath the dash. So right now the lever's horizontal. It needs to be turned vertical, and now the gas is flowing. On the later ones it was under the hood. This one's under the dash. Then we have the choke, which you go by pulling out to choke it. And then we have the air fuel, basically the mixture adjustment, and we're going to start it a little bit rich. It only needs to be about 1 turn out at the most to start it, and then once it warms up we're going to go to about a 1/4 turn open. This is fully closed. You don't want to jam down, just lightly fully close it. You don't want to crank down to fully close it. You can damage the jet in the carburetor by doing that. So we'll do a 1 turn open. After that, we're neutral. Set the handbrake for safety. The starter button is on the floor down here, where my foot is, and up on the dash, or up on the steering column rather. We have spark, advance, and retard on the left, and we have a hand throttle on the right. Spark, advance, and retard, when you start, needs to be fully in the retarded position. There's a lot of videos that suggest that you should start at advanced. You should not start at advanced. You should always start it totally retarded. The reason why, this is firing the spark when the piston comes up to top dead center. If you have it firing the spark while the starter's cranking over at anything but top dead center, you can get kickback on the starter motor and it'll damage the starter motor. So once the engine starts running, then you advance the throttle, or advance the spark. And we'll cover just how much to advance that once it's running. So, we've turned the gas on. We've adjusted the mixture valve to a slightly richer mixture for starting. We're going to move the hand throttle down just a few notches to give it a little extra gas. And we've fully retarded the spark. Now we turn the ignition on. We're going to push the clutch in. You don't need to do that, but it just takes a little bit of load off the starter because you're not turning the gears in the transmission. While we crank the engine over, we're going to just quickly pull out on the choke lever to choke it briefly and then push it back in. You don't need to hold it out, you just need to give it a small amount of choke. Now remember, this hasn't run in a few weeks, so it'll be the first time starting in several weeks, and we'll see how it goes. Now we advance the spark just a little bit, and we'll give it just a little bit more gas and bring it up to a fast idle for warming up. Now this would be a good time to go over just how much we want to advance and retard the spark lever. There are little notches on here, and the general rule of thumb is about for every 5 miles per hour, give it another degree of advance. Now it doesn't really matter how fast you're going, that's just a rule of thumb based on how fast the engine's going to be running, the number of RPMs. So basically the faster you run the engine, the more advanced you need to advance the spark lever. And the reason why, when the spark plug fires and the gasoline explodes or burns inside the combustion chamber, inside the cylinder, it takes, I don't remember exactly how long it is, it might be about 20 milliseconds for the flame spread to occur. So you need to advance the spark a little bit when the engine's running faster, because when that spark plug fires and the gasoline explodes or starts to burn, you need to have it timed right so that this flame spread can occur before the piston starts going all the way back down. If you have it at top dead center at 2000 RPM firing the spark plug, you're losing energy because that flame spread's burning and the gasoline's still burning while the piston's already on its downstroke. You want to capture all that energy while it's still completing its upstroke, so it pushes down with the most force that it possibly can have. So this engine has 90 overboard pistons, or well, it has 90 overboard piston, but it's a 90 overbore on the cylinders. And it also has a slightly higher compression head. So you won't need to advance this one quite as much as you would with the stock Model A. So we should be pretty warmed up now. Let's go down and see if it'll idle. Remember, this hasn't run in a few weeks, so it may need a little bit longer to warm up, but we should be all right. There we go, it's idling right where it should be. It's about 500 RPM. And we're going to now turn the enrichment back down to a nice leaned out running mixture. And let's go for a drive now. And I'll show you how to properly shift. So we'll take the handbrake off, close the door. Okay, now this is a 3-speed sliding gear transmission, which means there are no synchronizers. You should be double clutching and double declutching and rev matching on every shift. You don't have to. You can upshift without double clutching on this one. The transmission's in good shape, but it just helps for long-term wear if we just practice best practices every time. So, clutch in, reverse is up here, first is down, second is up here, and third is down and to the right. So, let's back it up. Brakes are very good on this. They've been adjusted. They're super tight and strong. First gear. As I mentioned in the other video, the flywheel's been replaced with a new flywheel that's been balanced by Antique Engine and Skokie. I think it's called Antique Engine. And new clutch has been put in, new throwout bearing, pilot bearing, and all that. So clutch engagement is super smooth. So here's how we shift. Start in first gear. To upshift to second, we want a double clutch. And same for third. What we're doing by double clutching and putting it in neutral and taking our foot off the clutch is we're giving the gears a little bit of time to slow down so we can match the speed for the next gear. There's very heavy oil in this transmission that helps the gears slow down. It's called 600W oil. I think it's about 240 weight. on this engine, it never needs to be down more than about halfway. If you're going for a high-speed run of about 60 miles an hour, which this thing will do, no problem, you might want to move it about 3/4 of the way down, but it never needs to be fully down at the bottom here. If you move it fully down, you'll hear the engine knocking and it's just not happy. So right now we're cruising at about 25. It's a nice smooth ride. There's no shimmies or shakes. Drives very well. Very little play in the steering wheel. We're coming up to a stop. We'll let the engine do some of the braking, but the brakes are perfectly fine. They can stop the car very well and very straight. Now when we go on the turn here, we're going to need to rev match to get into second gear because we're still moving. So we'll flip the throttle, go into second, and it engages smoothly. No big deal. Drives exactly like a Model A should. Now we'll do a fast stop here to show you the braking performance. So if we watch out the window, I'm going to step on the brakes very hard, and here we go. You see it locks up the wheels, requires very little pedal effort. You can't ask for anything more than that. If you're locking up the wheels, it means that the brakes are giving you all you got, and you're now working the tires too hard because the tires lose traction. So you can't have a Model A stop any faster or easier than that unless you were to put wider, bigger tires on it to give it more traction to the road to allow it to have more grip. So these brakes work phenomenally. There's so many Model A's that you'll see where the brakes are so very weak it's scary to drive them. And when you're coming to a stop, leave it in third gear until you get down pretty slow just to get that little bit of engine braking. Not a requirement, but it saves the brakes a little bit. You can see it idles very smoothly. I've never, in 3 years of owning it, it has never stalled on me. It never backfires. It's a very good running engine. We'll just wait for the traffic here. We've got a few cars to the right. Better and better, and it's shifting butter smooth now. Now these are 25-mile-an-hour roads. We'll go out on a 40-mile-an-hour road and wind it out a little bit more. Okay, once we get going, we'll advance the spark slightly as we build up some RPM in the motor. We retarded a little bit. We're at stops. Now we'll get up to about 40 here. Tight, you can drive it with one hand. We'll retard the spark just a little bit because we're coming to a stop. And we'll accelerate again after this light. Okay, here we go. Now we're running about 35 or 40 now. Very smooth. You can see the brakes work so well, I barely need to push on the pedal. See, there's very little travel that I need to work with here. A lot of other ones, they go almost to the floor and you get no braking effort at all. These are perfectly adjusted. Stop straight every single time. I think this is a good place to stop it. So, please watch the other video if you haven't already. I'll give you the walk around of everything and show you what's been done and the horn operation and lights and underneath and all that kind of stuff. You also see lots of photos that have receipts for all the parts that I've put on this. I'll show you anything the car still needs. And please read the description because I have a lot of information in the description as well. And feel free to get in contact with me if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.